This is why I love legalism. I really do. I know that's a weird thing to say in believer circles, right? Let me explain, because I know people are like, what? When Pharaoh said, you're going to put your kids in the river, what was the imagination in Pharaoh's heart as to how that was going to play out?
John.
They were going to be surfing all afternoon? It was a fishing expedition. You know? Hey, what was the intended outcome? What was the imagination of his heart?
Feed him to the crocodiles.
Feed him to the crocodiles, right? Moses' mother, on the other hand, she had a different imagination in her heart. What was the imagination in her heart? Saving her son. Right. Why? Because she loves her son. So Pharaoh has this imagining in his heart. Moses' mom has a different kind of imagining in her heart. In both instances, the kid ends up in the river. One is an outcome of death, one is an outcome of life. Because the one had an imagination of love for how this is going to play out. So we have in our society a lot of people who look at the things that are in the Torah and they have the imaginations of secularism, they have the imaginations of paganism, they have the imaginations of feminism, of all sorts of things, American ideologies. Like, this is America, this is how we're going to see things, blah, blah, right? Capitalism, socialism, whatever your ideological framework and worldview is, that is going to inform how you look at the text and derive meaning, right? On what two principles does Yeshua say hang all the law and the prophets? Love the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, and strength, and love your neighbor as yourself. So we can absolutely look at all these things and be like, yeah, God's trying to give this person a free pass over here, and this is the way I can schnai my neighbor over here, and if I do it this way, I can, get an advantage come the Shemitah year or the whatever else if I, plan it this way. You can approach these things with all sorts of evil imaginings in your heart. Or you can say, all right, if this is the framework that I'm working with, how do I approach it with loving God and loving my neighbor as myself to produce outcomes of life? Because it's there that humans interact with the pure words of God. And everything that is in us, our sin nature, our hopes for tomorrow, our whatever it is, they're constantly going to be interacting with His Word. Well, we should be asking ourselves, are we really looking at it in the lens of loving God and loving our neighbor as ourselves? Doesn't mean we're always going to get it right even then. But that should be a good place to say, how am I looking at this? Does that mean we won't sometimes have questions? No, of course not. And we should grapple with the text and wrestle with the text and so on and so forth. But when people look at this and be like, oh my gosh, did you read that thing? Yes. Well, it means this. It might mean that to you, but what are you bringing to the text? Where are you coming from, right? And see, what I'm bringing to the text, or what I'm trying to bring to the text, is loving God and loving my neighbor. So how is that going to change what it means to me, and how I'm going to walk it out, right? And we have that opportunity and we have that ability.